February 1943, the wind over the Hardanger Plateau cuts like a bayonet at minus 35 degrees Celsius. Snow so fine it behaves like smoke, whipping across a moonlit wasteland that looks more like the surface of another planet than Norway. 9 men ski single file into that white hell, each pulling a loaded sledge, each knowing that if they fail tonight, the war might be lost before another winter passes, because 200 miles behind them, in a cliffside factory called Vemork, hangs the fate of the atomic bomb. The German atomic bomb, the one that could turn London and New York into ash before the Allies even have a prototype. Their names are Joachim Ronneberg, 23 years old, already a veteran of too many impossible jobs. Knut Haukelid, the explosives wizard with ice in his veins. Arne Kjelstrup, the radio man who can make a transmitter from scrap. Frederick Kaiser, the quiet marksman. Birger Strumsheim, the older one, steady as granite. Hans Storhaug, the mountain boy who knows every ravine. Casper Idland, the youngest, barely 20. Klaus Helberg, the guide who once skied from Oslo to the North Cape for fun, and Jens Anton Paulsen, the leader who has already spent 4 months living in a reindeer hut on this plateau waiting for them. They are Operation Gunnerside, the sharp end of a spear thrown from London across the North Sea, and they are the second attempt. The first team, Grouse, dropped in October, has been living like animals up here for 137 days, eating moss and reindeer meat frozen solid, sleeping in snow holes while their beards turn to icicles, changing the batteries on their Eureka radio beacon every night, praying the Germans don't triangulate the signal. Because if Grouse fails to light the path tonight, Gunnerside skis straight into the abyss, and the heavy water keeps flowing to Berlin. Heavy water, the magic fluid that moderates neutrons, the stuff that makes a uranium reactor possible. Without it, Heisenberg's team is years behind. With it, they might have the bomb by late 1944. And Churchill has made it clear there is no price too high to stop it, not even 9 lives on a plateau where the wind can kill you faster than bullets. The plan is insane on paper. Fly from Scotland in a Halifax bomber, parachute onto a frozen plateau in the middle of a blizzard, ski 200 miles through occupied Norway carrying 40 pounds of explosives each, descend a 500-foot ravine that the Germans consider impassable, blow up the high-concentration cells inside Vemork, where the heavy water is made, and then ski out again before the garrison of 200 troops wakes up. The factory sits on a shelf of rock 700 feet above the Mona River Gorge, guarded by mines, floodlights, machine gun nests, and a single suspension bridge that sways in the gale like a drunk. The Germans are so confident no one can reach it from the east that they have removed the anti-climb plates from the bridge railings and stationed only one sleepy sentry at night who smokes cigarettes and dreams of home. The 9 Norwegians know all this because Grouse has been watching from a hut 30 miles away, sending coded messages in bursts of Morse that travel across the North Sea to a cottage in Buckinghamshire, where Norwegian exiles and British officers drink tea and pray the wind doesn't rip the aerial off the roof. Tonight, the wind is perfect, a howling westerly that covers every sound. Tonight, the moon is almost full, turning the snow silver. Tonight is the night, or there will never be another. Ronneberg leads the column in a white camouflage smock, his Sten gun slung under his arm. The sledge runners hiss over the crust, each man skiing in the track of the one ahead to hide their numbers. They have rehearsed this for months at Station Z in Scotland, jumping from mock aircraft towers, skiing with full packs, blowing up replica electrolysis cells until they can do it blindfolded. But Scotland had heather and midges. This has death in every breath. The cold is a living thing. It crawls inside your collar and freezes the sweat on your back before it can run. Your fingers go numb in minutes. Your eyelids frost shut if you blink too long. They have reindeer skin mittens and whale oil grease on their faces, but still the cold laughs at them. After 6 hours, they stop in a hollow, light a Primus stove under a ground sheet, and melt snow for tea. The flame is a tiny yellow miracle in the white dark. Poulsen, the grouse leader, greets them with a grip that cracks knuckles. He has lost 20 kilos. His cheekbones look sharp enough to cut paper, but his eyes burn. "We have waited so long," he says. "The factory is full. The Germans have increased production since Swallow failed." Swallow was the glider raid in November. 2 Halifax bombers and 2 gliders crashed into the mountains. Every man killed, the bodies still lie where they fell, picked over by ravens. The Germans laughed and doubled the guard and moved the heavy water tanks into the strongest room on the 7th floor, behind 2 steel doors and a concrete wall 2 feet thick. But Grouse has watched every patrol, every shift change, every lazy sentry who pisses against the wall instead of walking his beat. They know the blind spots. They know the minefield patterns. They know the suspension bridge is checked only once an hour. They know everything, except whether their own hearts will keep beating in this cold. They drink the tea scalding hot, share a bar of chocolate that tastes like heaven, and then they move again. The plateau is endless, waves of snow and black rock. The northern lights ripple overhead, green and purple curtains, but no one looks up. There is only the next ridge, the next valley, the next hour without frostbite. At 0300, they reach the edge of the world. The ground simply stops. The ravine drops away 500 feet straight down, ice-glazed rock and the Mona River roaring black far below. Even in moonlight, the drop looks suicidal. The original plan was to descend the road on the west side, where the garrison lives, but Grouse has watched troop trucks moving there every night. The road is no longer safe. This is the only way, the impossible way. Helberg goes first. He's the climber. He ties the rope around a boulder, pays it out slowly, finds cracks for his fingers, toes, crampons biting into ice that rings like glass. One slip, and he falls forever. The others wait above, stamping feet, blowing on hands, praying the rope holds. One by one they follow the rope, creaking under their weight. The sledge is lowered separately on separate lines, banging against the cliff, sparks flying when metal hits rock. It takes 90 minutes. 90 minutes of clinging to a vertical wall of ice, with the river screaming below and the wind trying to peel them off like postage stamps. When the last man touches bottom, they are shaking. Not from fear, but from the sheer animal effort of not dying. The river is a torrent. Black water, white foam. They cross on an ice bridge that groans under their weight. One crack, and the current takes you to the fjord in pieces. But the bridge holds. They climb the far side, hand over hand using roots and rocks until they stand on the factory shelf itself, 200 yards from the main gate. The searchlights sweep in lazy arcs. The bridge sentry is visible, a tiny figure in greatcoat, stamping his feet, smoking. The garrison barracks are warm and yellow-windowed, 200 men asleep, dreaming of girls and leave. The 9 Norwegians crawl forward on bellies through the snow. The minefield is marked by the Germans themselves, little red triangles on sticks, arrogant bastards thinking no one would ever come this way. They slalom between the mines, hearts hammering, reach the railway track that runs along the shelf. The factory looms above them, 7 stories of concrete and steel, windows glowing faintly from the night shift inside. 20 Norwegian workers kept as hostages, operating the cells under German guns. The demolition team, Ronneberg, Haukelid, Edlund, Kaiser, and Strumsheim, strip off the sledges, unpack the explosives, 30 pounds of plastic shaped in sausage charges with pencil timers. The covering team, Poulsen, Helberg, Kjelstrup, and Strumsheim, take up positions with Sten guns and grenades, ready to fight their way out if it comes to that. Ronneberg looks at his watch, 0430 hours. The night shift changes at 0500 hours. The bridge sentry will be relieved. The new man will be alert. They have 30 minutes to get in, blow the cells, and get out. The door they need is on the ground floor, a cable intake used by maintenance. The lock is simple. Haukelid picks it in 20 seconds with a bent nail. They slip inside. The air is warm, humid, smells of chemicals and hot oil. Pipes hiss overhead. The electrolysis cells are on the 7th floor, but the high-concentration tanks, the ones with the D2O, are in the basement strongroom. They must go down, not up. The stairs are guarded by one man, a German private, reading a letter from home by the light of a single bulb. He never hears them. Ronneberg comes from behind, one hand over mouth, one twist of the knife, no sound. The body slumps. They drag it into a closet, blood already freezing on the floor. They descend steel stairs that ring under their boots. Every echo sounds like an alarm, but the factory is loud. The hum of generators masks everything. They reach the basement corridor, two steel doors, one locked, one guarded by a Norwegian collaborator, a traitor named Olsen, who chose sausage over country. He sits on a stool, smoking. Looks up startled when 5 white figures appear from nowhere. Ronneberg speaks first in Norwegian. "Drop the cigarette and open the door or die." Olsen hesitates, reaches for the alarm button. Haukelid shoots him once through the forehead. The body falls backward, cigarette still burning. They step over him, place the charges against the 18 stainless steel cells, each containing hundreds of liters of D2O.
Water, the timers are set for 30 minutes. Pencil fuses that cannot be stopped once crushed. Ronneberg crushes them one by one. The soft click is the loudest sound in the world. They place extra charges on the pipeline that feeds the cells. Then they run up the stairs past the dead German, past the warm air that now feels like betrayal, into the snow. The night is still dark. The searchlights still sweep. They have 28 minutes to cross the bridge before everything behind them turns into fire and the Germans wake up. They sprint along the railway track, boots crunching on frozen gravel. The suspension bridge is 150 yards ahead, swaying in the gale like a living thing. The sentry is exactly where Grouse said he would be, half asleep, cigarette glowing red in the dark. Ronneberg signals, 2 fingers. Kaiser, the marksman, drops to one knee, brings up the silenced Sten. The cough is soft, almost lost in the wind. The sentry folds forward over the railing, cigarette falling into the abyss. No cry, no alarm, just the wind howling through the cables. They are across the bridge in 12 seconds, wires singing under their weight, the gorge yawning black below. On the far side, they do not stop. They slide down the slope on their backs, using rucksacks as sleds, rocks tearing at cloth, sparks flying from crampons. They hit the river ice, running crouched, the same ice bridge that groaned on the way in. Now it screams under the sudden weight, cracks spiderweb across the surface. Hellberg, the last man, feels it give beneath his boots. He dives forward, lands hard on the far bank as the middle section collapses with a roar, black water swallowing the moon. They do not look back. They climb the ravine, the same impossible wall, but now in frantic reverse, ropes already waiting from the ascent. They haul hand over hand, lungs on fire, fingers bleeding inside mittens. The first explosion comes when they are halfway up, a dull thud deep in the earth, then a sharper crack as the charges chain. The ground shakes, snow cascades down the cliff like avalanches. The factory lights flicker, then blaze white as emergency generators kick in. They can hear shouts now, faint across the gorge, the garrison waking, too late. The high-concentration cells are gone, 18 of them, shattered glass and steel twisted. The precious heavy water, a lake of pale liquid spreading across the basement floor, draining into cracks, seeping into the Mona River, useless, diluted forever. The Germans will scream when they see it, but the 9 men are still climbing. The rope burns their palms. The wind tries to rip them off like flags. Ronneberg reaches the top first, rolls over the edge, grabs the next rope, hauls Haukelid up, then Idland, then Kaiser, then Strimsheim. The covering team is waiting, Poulsen grinning like a wolf. "We heard the bang," he says. "Beautiful music." The second explosion is bigger. The pipeline charges rip the main feed line. A gout of flame shoots out the basement windows, orange against the snow. The factory siren finally begins to wail, long rising howl that carries for miles across the plateau. But the 9 men are already gone. They clip into skis, sledges abandoned, everything non-essential dumped. They have rehearsed this too. The escape route northwest across the plateau, then down into the forests toward Sweden. 250 miles of hunted country behind them. The entire German garrison will be out within the hour. Dogs, trucks, skis, aircraft. The biggest manhunt in occupied Norway is beginning, and they are the foxes. At 0600, the sky is turning pearl gray. They ski in arrow formation, Poulsen breaking trail, the others in his track to hide numbers. The snow is perfect, fast crust that sings under the skis. They cover 10 kilometers in the first hour. The cold is no longer an enemy, it is fuel. Their bodies burn with it, every breath a cloud of ice crystals. The plateau is open, naked. If a Fieseler Storch spotter plane comes over, they are dead. But the cloud is lowering, snow beginning to fall again, a blessing from whatever God watches saboteurs. By 0800, they are 30 kilometers from Vemork, the siren long faded behind them. They stop only once to swallow frozen chocolate and check feet. No frostbite yet. The whale oil grease is holding. They ski on. The land rises into whaleback ridges, then drops into deep valleys where the wind cannot reach. In one such valley they find the first patrol tracks, ski tracks, fresh German mountain troops, moving south toward Vemork. They count 12 men, heavily armed. The Germans are fanning out already. Poulsen makes the decision. They will not hide. They will ambush the patrol. The patrol is moving slow, confident. They think any saboteurs will be running south toward the coast. Wrong direction. The Norwegians wait in a stand of dwarf birch, white smocks invisible. Ronneberg signals. The trap. Kaiser and Storhaug on the left flank. Haukelid and Edlund on the right. The Germans ski straight into the bowl, chatting in low voices, cigarettes glowing. They never see the Stens until the first burst cuts the leader in half. The second burst takes 2 more. The rest scatter, diving for cover. But there is no cover, only snow. The Norwegians rise like ghosts, firing short, controlled bursts. The fight lasts 40 seconds. 12 Germans down, no survivors, no prisoners. The Norwegians take their ammunition, skis better than their own, a machine pistol, food, cigarettes, even a bottle of aquavit. They leave the bodies where they fell, the snow already covering the blood. This is war, no time for graves. They ski on, harder now. The Germans will know there are professionals out here, not panicked amateurs. The hunt just became personal. By noon, the snow is heavy, visibility down to 50 meters, perfect cover. They cross the main road from Rjukan to Kongsberg without seeing a soul. Trucks are moving, but the blizzard hides everything. At 1400 hours, they reach the cache grouse buried months ago under a cairn of stones. Tinned reindeer meat, new skis, ski wax, a bottle of brandy. They eat hot food for days in first time in days, the meat heated over a primus, the warmth spreading through their bodies like sunlight. Poulsen opens the map. The route is marked in red. 300 kilometers to Sweden, but not in a straight line. They must zigzag, avoid villages, cross frozen lakes at night, skirt the big garrisons at Notodden and Kongsberg. The Germans will have roadblocks everywhere. Aircraft will be up as soon as the weather lifts. They must move only at night, hide by day. The first night after the attack, they ski 50 kilometers. The second night, 60 kilometers. Their bodies are machines now. Pain is background noise like the hum of the blood in their ears. On the third day, they hole up in a summer pasture hut high in the mountains. The roof half collapsed, but it has a stove. They light a tiny fire, smoke vented through a tin pipe. The warmth is obscene after days of cold. They sleep in shifts, one man always on watch with the machine pistol. Outside, the blizzard rages for 48 hours. The Germans cannot fly, cannot move troops. The saboteurs rest, eat, sleep, heel blisters, mend skis, sharpen knives on stones. On the 4th morning, the storm breaks. The sky is clear, hard blue. The temperature plunges to -40. The air itself feels brittle. They know the planes will come. At first light, a Fieseler Storch appears low over the ridge, circling the hut. They freeze inside, hearts hammering. The pilot banks, turns, comes back lower this time, machine guns stitching the snow around the hut. They dive for cover, bullets punching through the thin walls, splinters flying, the stove overturned, hot coals scattering. The pilot pulls up, circles again. They know he is radioing position. Troops will be here in hours. They are out the back door before the plane completes its turn. Skis already on, running crouched through the birch scrub. The Storch dives again, guns hammering, but the trees break his aim. They disappear into a ravine. The plane circles for 20 minutes, then flies away frustrated. The Germans will come on skis, fast mountain troops. They have perhaps 2 hours head start. They ski like men possessed. down the ravine, across a frozen marsh, up the other side. The snow is deep here, no crust. Their legs burn with lactic acid, but they do not slow. At dusk, they reach Lake Mosvat, 70 kilometers of ice stretching north, the largest lake in southern Norway. The Germans will expect them to skirt it, too big, too open, too exposed. Instead, they ski straight out onto the ice in the dark, moonless now, stars like broken glass above them. The ice sings under their skis, a low humming that carries for miles across the snow. They ski in line, spread out in case the ice breaks. The cold is so intense their breath freezes on eyelashes, beards turn to white masks. Halfway across, they hear engines, aircraft low and fast, a Junkers coming in from the south, searchlights stabbing down, sweeping the ice. They drop flat, spread-eagled. The light passes over them, misses by 50 meters. The plane circles twice, then flies on. They wait 10 minutes, then ski again, harder. The far shore is a black line against the stars. They reach it at 0300 hours, collapse in a hollow, eat snow, drink brandy, their bodies shaking not from cold, but from the knowledge of how close that was. On the 6th day they split the group for the first time. The original plan always had this moment. Ronneberg takes 4 men northwest, the direct route to Sweden. Poulsen takes the other 4 south, then east, a feint to draw the hunt. They embrace, no words, just the grip of men who may never see each other again. Poulsen's group will make noise, leave tracks, ski past villages, fire shots if necessary, sacrifice themselves if it gives the others time. Ronneberg's group, the demolition team with the knowledge of exactly how the cells were destroyed, must reach Sweden, whatever the cost. They part at dawn, Poulsen heading south, waving once, then gone. Ronneberg watches until the tracks disappear, then turns north. The hunt is now split. The Germans do not know which group to chase. Radio traffic is frantic. They are throwing everything into the net, but the net has holes, and the foxes are running. Ronneberg's group is now 5 shadows against an endless white sea. Joachim Ronneberg, Knut Haukelid, Fredrik Kaiser, Birger Strömsheim, and Klaus Hellberg. They have no sledges left, only what they carry on their backs, 1 Sten each, 2 Bren guns taken from the dead patrol, 4 grenades, half a kilo of plastic explosive for emergencies, a medical kit, and food for 6 days if they chew slowly. The map is burned into Ronneberg's brain, every contour line, every frozen river, every cabin that might be empty or might hold a collaborator. They are heading for the Swedish border, 220 kilometers north-northeast, but the straight line is death. They will weave like reindeer in spring, using valleys the Germans think are impassable, crossing lakes at their narrowest points in the blackest hours, sleeping in snow graves dug with skis. The first day after the split, the weather turns savage again. Horizontal snow, visibility 20 meters, wind that can blow a man off his feet. Perfect. They ski from 1800 to 0600, covering 70 kilometers in one push, legs moving long after the mind has stopped caring about pain. At dawn, they dig a snow hole on the north slope of a ridge, crawl in like wolves, pull the white ground sheet over the entrance, and sleep in a pile for warmth. Hellberg wakes first, peeks out. Nothing but white and wind. No tracks, no aircraft. God is still Norwegian. On the second night, they reach the upper reaches of the Tinnsjø lake system, 30 kilometers of ice flanked by mountains. German patrols are using the frozen surface as a highway now. Truck tracks and ski marks crisscross everywhere. They wait in a pine thicket until 200, watching headlights crawl back and forth like fireflies. When the last truck disappears south, they move out onto the ice, skiing fast and low, spread 50 meters apart. Halfway across the lake, the clouds part, and the moon betrays them, turning the ice into a mirror. Far behind, a flare arcs up, green, then white, hanging in the sky like a second moon. Someone has seen movement. They do not look back. They ski harder, lungs raw, thighs screaming. Machine gun fire cracks across the ice, tracers skipping like stones. The range is extreme, 800 meters, but the bullets still hunt. Kaiser drops his pack, turns, sets the Bren on its bipod on the ice, and fires long bursts back at the muzzle flashes. The others keep skiing. Kaiser empties a magazine, slaps in another, and fires again, then grabs the pack and catches up. No one is hit. The ice behind them is pocked with black holes, but the pursuers are still on the southern shore, too far to follow quickly. By the time they organize a crossing, the 5 Norwegians are gone into the trees on the north side, swallowed by darkness. They do not stop until noon the next day, hiding in a ravine so steep the sun never reaches it. They melt snow, eat frozen blood sausage taken from the dead patrol, and listen to the distant thump of aircraft engines searching the lake. Haukelid queens the Bren with a rag and whale oil, singing softly under his breath an old rowing song from the fjords. No one tells him to shut up. The song keeps them human. That afternoon, the temperature rises above freezing for the first time in weeks. Disaster. The snow turns to slush, skis sink to the bindings. Every kilometer is torture. They know what this means. When night comes and the cold returns, the surface will freeze into a crust sharp as glass. If they are on open ground when that happens, they will leave tracks visible from the moon. They push anyway, crossing the last high pass before the great forests of Hedmark, legs bleeding inside their boots, faces burned raw by wind and sun reflected off snow. At 2200, the freeze hits. The slush turns iron hard in minutes. They reach a birch forest and gratefully sink into powder up to their knees. Tracks hidden. They dig another snow hole, deeper this time, line it with pine boughs, crawl in, and sleep like dead men. They wake to silence so complete it rings in the ears. Hellberg crawls out first and comes back white-faced. Germans, 20 meters away. A patrol has camped in the same clearing. 12 mountain troops with a dog team, tents pitched, fire smoking. They must have arrived after the Norwegians were already buried. The dog is whining, nose pointed straight at the snow hole. The handler is trying to quiet it. The 5 saboteurs lie motionless inside the cave, fingers on triggers, breathing through mouths to avoid frost clouds. Minutes stretch like hours. Finally, the handler drags the dog away, cursing. The patrols breaking camp, moving west. They never see the low mound of snow that hides 5 men who have stopped breathing. When the last German disappears, the Norwegians wait another hour, then crawl out, hearts hammering so hard they can taste iron. They ski east now, away from the patrol's direction, adding 20 unnecessary kilometers, but staying alive. On the 9th day after the explosion, they reached the Glomma River, the longest in Norway, still open water in places, black and fast. The map shows only one bridge for 50 kilometers, guarded, of course. They follow the river north until they find what Hellberg has been looking for, a place where the current has undercut the ice on both banks, leaving a narrow channel of open water, but a thick shelf of ice hanging over it like a roof. They crawl under the shelf on bellies, pushing rucksacks ahead, the river roaring inches below their faces. Water soaks their clothes, freezes instantly on the far side. They emerge shivering violently, but on the east bank, beyond the German lines. That night they steal a rowing boat from a barn, drag it 2 kilometers overland to a smaller lake, row across in pitch dark, sink the boat with stones. No tracks. Food is almost gone. They have been chewing pine needles and birch bark for 2 days. Haukelid shoots a reindeer with the silent Sten. a single shot to the heart. They butcher it in minutes, eat the liver raw, and fill their packs with frozen meat. Strength returns like a miracle. On the 12th day, they hear church bells. They are close to the border now, less than 40 kilometers, but the area is crawling with patrols. Every farm is watched, every road blocked. They decide on the boldest move yet: walk straight through a village in daylight disguised as lumberjacks. They rub soot on their faces, tear their uniforms to look like civilian clothes, hide the weapons under coats, and march down the main street at noon on a Sunday when every German is drunk or asleep. Old women cross themselves as they pass. Children stare. No one speaks. They buy bread and milk at the store with forged ration cards, chat about the weather, and leave as casually as they arrived. 10 minutes later, they are back in the forest, laughing like madmen at their nerve. That night they climb the last mountain. At the summit, Hellberg points east. Through the trees they can see lights, steady electric lights, not the yellow flicker of oil lamps. Sweden. Neutral, warm, impossible Sweden. They ski down the eastern slope slowly, savoring every meter. At 0317 on 11 March 1943, 13 days after blowing up the heavy water plant and 17 days after parachuting onto the Hardanger Plateau, 5 exhausted, frost-blackened, half-starved Norwegian commandos cross an unmarked line in the snow and collapse into the arms of a stunned Swedish border patrol. The Swedes think they are ghosts. They are not. They are the men who just killed Hitler's atomic bomb. But the story is not over. 200 kilometers south, Paulsen's diversion group is still running, still fighting, still drawing the entire German army after them like hounds after a bloodied rag. And in Berlin, a very angry scientist named Werner Heisenberg is about to receive the worst news of his war. The Swedish border guards stare at the apparitions who have just skied out of the night. Beards white with frost, eyes sunken, uniforms in rags, weapons slung like they were born with them. One guard raises his rifle out of pure reflex, then lowers it again when
Poulsen, Kjellstrup, Storhaug, and On Edlund, no relation to Caspar, have taken the southern route exactly as planned, making as much noise as 4 men can make without getting caught. They shoot up a German staff car on the road to Kongsberg, leave the burning wreck with a note pinned to the driver's chest, courtesy of the Norwegian army. They blow a railway bridge near Hoksund, derail a troop train, and vanish before the smoke clears. Every action is designed to scream, "Here we are," while the real demolition team slips away in the opposite direction. By the time the 5 reach Sweden, the diversion group has accounted for 37 dead Germans and half the Wehrmacht in southern Norway chasing shadows. On 14th March, 3 days after Runneberg's group crosses the border, Paulsen's 4 ski into a trap. A company of SS mountain troops corners them in a narrow valley near Vegli. Outnumbered 20-1, they fight from rock to rock for 6 hours, holding the only pass the Germans can use to bring up artillery. Kjellstrup is shot through both legs and keeps firing the Bren until the barrel glows red. Storhaug drags him behind a boulder, stuffs rags into the wounds, and they crawl into a stream bed while Paulsen and Edlund lay down covering fire with the last grenades. When the sun drops behind the ridge, the 4 are out of ammunition, out of food, and almost out of blood. Paulsen makes the call: scatter and survive. They split into pairs, promise to meet in Sweden or in Valhalla, whichever comes first. Paulsen and Edlund ski north through the night, chased by flares and dogs. At dawn they reach the frozen Numedalslågen River, cut a hole in the ice, and hide beneath the shelf for 12 hours while patrols march overhead, boots drumming inches above their heads. When night falls again, they crawl out, half frozen, and keep moving.
On 28 March, 17 days after the split and 31 days after the explosion, they stumble across the border near Magnor, collapse in front of a Swedish farmer who thinks they are drunk until he sees the blood frozen to their clothes. All 4 of Paulson's group make it, not one man lost. 9 parachuted in, 9 walked out. Back in London, the news arrives in fragments, then in a torrent. The Norwegian government in exile weeps openly. Churchill reads the final report and writes in the margin, "The heaviest blow yet struck against the enemy." The heavy water stock at Vemork, over 3,000 liters of the highest concentration ever produced, has been reduced to worthless puddles on a concrete floor. Heisenberg's reactor program is set back by at least 18 months, perhaps 2 years. The German atomic project will never recover. The saboteurs themselves refuse hero worship. They are debriefed for weeks, then scattered, some to Scottish training camps to teach the next wave, others straight back into Norway on new missions. Klaus Hellberg is caught 6 months later while guiding a new team across the plateau. Tortured for days, escapes by skiing off a cliff, literally 300 feet onto deep snow, and walks 50 kilometers on broken bones to Sweden again. Knut Haukelid stays in Norway, sinks the ferry carrying the last heavy water barrels across Lake Tinnsjø in February 1944, drowning the cargo and 14 innocent Norwegian civilians with it, because the alternative was letting the barrels reach Germany. He never forgives himself, but he never hesitates either. Joachim Ronneberg, the youngest leader at 23, is offered every medal in the book. He accepts only the War Cross with sword and asks that the others receive the same. He returns to Norway after the war, becomes a quiet radio journalist, refuses to speak publicly about Gunnerside for 30 years. When he finally does, in his 80s, he still corrects anyone who calls them heroes. "We were just 9 ordinary lads who were asked to do a job. The heroes are the ones who never came home. The job they did changed history in ways no one will ever fully calculate. Without heavy water, Heisenberg's reactor builds a reactor that never goes critical. The Germans waste hundreds of millions of Reichsmarks and thousands of scientists on a bomb that never materializes. When the Americans dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima in August 1945, Germany has no answer, no counter-threat, no second strike. The war in Europe ends 3 months earlier than some planners feared. How many lives is that worth? 10,000? 100,000? A million? No one knows. But on a frozen plateau in 1943, 9 Norwegian skiers carrying 30 pounds of explosives each cast the vote that tipped the balance. Vemork factory is repaired by autumn 1943, but the Germans never again reach the same concentration levels. American bombers pound it flat in November, forcing the remaining stock to be shipped south on the ferry Haukelid later sinks. The last barrels go to the bottom of Lake Tinnsjø, 800 feet deep, where they still lie today, rusting memorials to 9 men who skied through hell and came out the other side. In 1979, the survivors gather one last time at Vemork, now a museum. They are old men now, white-haired, walking with sticks, but when they stand together on the suspension bridge, the years fall away. Renneberg looks down into the gorge and says quietly, "We were so young." Haukelid, half deaf from explosions, cups an ear to his ear and grins. "What?" They laugh until they cry. One by one they die. Storhaug in 1982, Kjellstrup in 1987, Kaiser in 1992, Stromsheim in 1999, Edlund in 2001, Hellberg in 2003, Haukelid in 2006, Paulson in 2010. Joachim Ronneberg is the last, dying peacefully in his bed in Ålesund on 21 October 2018 at the age of 99. The night before he passes, his daughter finds him sitting up, staring out the window at fresh snow on the mountains. She asks what he's thinking. He smiles and says, "I can still hear the skis." In 2013, the Norwegian government finally erects a proper memorial on the Hardangervidda Plateau. 9 steel blades rising from the snow like ski tips, each engraved with a name. On the day it is unveiled, a wind comes down from the north exactly like the wind in February 1943, and the blades sing a low, clear note that carries for miles across the empty white. Old reindeer hunters say you can stand there on a quiet night and hear 9 men breathing hard, skis hissing, moving fast through the dark on a mission that saved the world and asked for nothing in return.